So welcome, Ben. It's lovely to meet you. This is Ben Grassby, who's come to conversation with us today about the World Heritage. Welcome.
Yeah, it's an absolute pleasure. Really nice to be here.
And I believe that you're a well-being facilitator.
Yeah, I run
Right,
trainings, have been for 25 years to help people come unstuck. I do it in various ways, and I've been living here in Glastonbury for about 15 years now.
Amazing.
Love the place as it is.
So what is your connection to Glastonbury?
Well, I'm a Mendip boy. I was born in Blagdon, and from a very, very young age, I would always come to Glastonbury pilgrimages when I was young teenager, and then for the more esoteric as I got older. And it's always been a place that I came to get some reflection, and eventually I ended up working in London, went crazy, and it's always nice to know there's always been a Glastonbury here. It's punctuated my whole life. But I moved here 15 years ago with my then wife, and can't get enough of the place now.
Great.
Yeah, so it's nice to be someone who all his life has visited, but I've lived here for a big chunk of time now. Yeah.
Strong connection then.
Love it.
And how did you hear about this World Heritage Status proposal? How did you first hear about it?
Well, I think that's a big reason why I wanted to speak to you today. And I just want to be careful how I say this. It's like, but maybe I'll be humorous about this. We could be sat here having a conversation about Glastonbury becoming a spaceport or a nudist colony or the national upside down headstand centre of the earth. It's like, it's a really abstract thing that suddenly it's like, we're talking about World Heritage Status, but there never was a conversation about World Heritage Status. There never was a need for World Heritage Status. So I'm being a little bit facetious. So this kind of strange situation has been where there's a lot of people very emotionally affected by this suggestion that's come out of nowhere. So for me, I really view the idea that Glastonbury should be a World Heritage Site as an abstract as it should be in the national centre of painting yourself blue, or it should be the national centre of the first anime Comic-Con town or something. It's just an abstract thing that I don't think there was ever any need for, that suddenly has got a huge focus. And one of the things about my professional and personal life is we've got to be really careful what it is that we fight against, particularly if what's something we're fighting against we never asked for and we don't know who asked for it in the first place. So it came on my radar as a, what the hell? And instantly I thought, well, that's just so obscure. And then I was like, I'll try and find out, obviously maybe I've missed something. I've lived here for a long time. I talk to people a lot, and not in a professional sense, not in a political sense. I'm like, I'll open my ears and find out who is it that bubbling out of my awareness has decided that this should be the World Heritage Centre. And the first thing is like, the answer was like, oh, no, we're just looking into it. And let me trust you. One of the things that I do is I study the connection between minds and language. And when suddenly somebody is saying, oh, no, we're just looking into something, we call that nudging and priming from behavioural control. Okay. And so suddenly people are affected by something that has been dropped into a situation. You can't find the source of it. People are divided as trying to fight it, or just saying, oh, there's nothing to worry about here. So initially I started with curiosity, and I could find nobody who's a resident, people who are coming in, who could tell me the history of where this idea came in, which is why I'm jokingly saying, and it is valid, we could be having the same conversation because suddenly there's a high visibility that people are spending a lot of money and getting a lot of attention and trying to console us that we're just looking into something.
Right.
When in fact, where the hell did the idea come from?
It was explored 10 years ago, apparently.
Was it now?
Yeah.
Ah, great. So
and then it was put on the back burner.
Okay. It was explored.
Apparently.
Well, maybe 10 years ago, there were people like me going, why are we exploring this? Maybe we should be exploring becoming the national, kind of English edition of Smurfland or Moominland or something like that. So it's left me with, personally, as someone with big questions.
For you, it came out of the blue, did it? Just
Well, when you suddenly find that people are talking about trying to stop something or trying to tell you not to worry about something, I'm a normal human being and I do have some training in this area.
Yeah.
And I know it's time to pay attention. And rather than trying to stop something from happening, is to find out where's the seed?
Okay.
Where's the seed from? And like a lot of people, I have been asking, so where does this idea come from? I mean, and that's also, where I am literally today is, well, I'm going to show some of my credentials. I was a project manager for 20 years in very high value, high risk situations in the past millennium. Unless something fundamentally has changed in the world, any project starts with a needs assessment. So you see, what is it that people need? Okay, so I don't mean to get too clinical about this, but like anything in life, you find out what's the need, that demand, and then you scope out how can we supply what it is that people need.
Yeah.
And I have certainly, face to face, conversationally, informally asked, why do we need this? Now, the reason that it's really on my radar was at the local town council where the people can go. I listen very carefully to how people use language. And the mayor used the phrase, we don't know if we're going to get it. Okay?
Yeah.
Now, unfortunately, I can't find a recording of that town hall meeting. Most of them are recorded, so I could double check my memory of how that was said.
Yes.
Within that, there's a presupposition that something's going to be received, got.
Okay, right.
When I then challenged a former mayor about why they were consulting, when the mayor had said that it was something they might get, I was told they weren't consulting, they were scoping. Now, and so that we call that a sleight of mouth.
Right.
In linguistics, you suddenly change the word from consulting to scoping.
Yes.
So my reply back is, if you're scoping something, which is the second phase of any project, what is the need that you're trying to fulfill, and what other alternatives are you scoping? So we're in a situation now where I really do see the conversation, a lot of the anger, because the majority of people don't want to be having this conversation because they have no interest in this. It would be as interesting as, maybe it'd be more interesting to be like the World Smurf Convention, 24/7, 365 days a year. It's like there are more important things in this town than spending money on and trying to stop something where there is not a transparent consultation on the need of it. And it makes me furious that the answer that always comes back is, we are just doing fact finding, scoping. I don't want to be too graphic, but you look at any form of history where people are just looking into things, just scoping things, and you say, for what purpose? And how do you know that people want this?
Exactly.
And for me, that's tyrannical.
Yes.
And if it's not tyrannical now, the nudging and the priming that I'm hearing in the language, either inadvertently, maybe it's done completely innocently, the language the town council uses, particularly in front of the public, is dangerous.
Right.
Not what they say, but how they say it. And they need to be called to account. And another thing that was interesting yesterday is the new mayor, because I did watch the 13th of May town meeting, said that they want to really stamp down on misinformation. And so my direct request is, give us the information, okay? Because if people don't know, they search for meaning. So what it is that you're calling misinformation, and this applies to the town deal, it applies to your disgusting things that you've got trees in, to wiping over Banksies and all of the ludicrous things that have happened, which of course is always excused because, that was a different group of 8 people that were elected for that. It's like, give us the information. We're grown-ups in this town, and if you're asked a question, answer the question. And if you were at that open town hall meeting, you would have seen, and unfortunately I can't find a video recording of it, is people who would simply not answering the question. And therefore, I think if you are experiencing misinformation, rather than trying to rally against it, step up and give us the information. What is the need that was identified? Don't intellectually backfill. Did you come up with World Heritage first and then backfill a need which doesn't exist? Or did you start by actually talking to people in Glastonbury, stakeholders, to find out what does this town need?
And Ben, there was an article some time ago before, any of this came out, and the actual title of the article was Glastonbury Wants World Heritage Status. So they were literally jumping the gun.
Wow. Well, I hadn't seen that, Amanda. And,
so
it might be a selection bias here, but as soon as I heard Mayor Lockabongo saying, you can dub that over, I don't know how his name is really pronounced, when he started saying, we don't know if we're going to get it yet, to get something is different from just have a little look around and explore options. And I've since found out that, I don't know if this is true or misinformation, up to £30,000 has been allocated to get consultants. I'd like to see the tendering process, and within that, surely there's a needs assessment showing the various needs of the people of Glastonbury. In fact, I'd like to see that for the town deal, as well as a full statement of how much money has been spent and where it's gone. But that's probably for another day.
Exactly. So do you know, Ben, of any other World Heritage sites around the world?
I've visited them and they're clinical and they're horrible, and it's always been a disappointment. I don't want to name any of them, but I've travelled to various places in the world, particularly to see my family heritage is Norse, Scandinavian, and I've been to go and see some stones and things that have been here for many thousands or hundreds or thousands of years. And as soon as I've got to the concrete and the visitor centre, I'd rather go to a shopping centre. So maybe I've just been to the bad ones, but all of my trips to go and see things that I'd like to see have been ruined by gift shops, queuing systems, and soulless automatrons trying to restrict access and tell you what to think. But I've only been to a few of them. Maybe there's some great ones as well.
So what do you think the impact of World Heritage Status would be on Glastonbury?
Probably less fun than being World Smurf Centre. Probably, as valid as, but what I don't know, because it's something that I don't think we should simply be having a conversation about. Or we shouldn't be told it's just being investigated. My intuitive sense, with a little bit of looking at how this council does spend money and how it charges money to people with residents here, I think it's going to be a clusterfuck and it's going to be a mess. And then they will be saved by a big organisation who says, don't worry, little townspeople, little hobbits, we know how to do this. And then we'll look round and we'll go, oh, I used to live here. And someone will say, you still do? You go, oh, I don't really live here. It's I don't know.
Unrecognisable in a way from what...
And I imagine there'll be a whole lot of pain whilst the people who think that they're in control of this or in favour of this in the small local political nature get absolutely juggernauted by a massive organisation. At which point they'll go, oh, we didn't know it was going to be like this. Quick, let's get an audit. Oh no, it was just an idea that someone came up with once on the Crown with the weird liberty thing on it. Oh, I don't. And sorry, who knows? My answer is maybe I'll be pleasantly surprised, but I somewhat doubt it. I wouldn't
Have you heard of the phrase UNESCO side? No. UNESCO side.
Okay, so this is as a result of previous wonderful. Again, imagine it'd be much better if it was just naked land or Smurf land or some other abstract weird idea. But luckily the weird ideas I come up with, I haven't got 30 grand to put behind consulting on them. Somebody has got someone else's money to do this as well. I don't think they'd be putting their own money on it. No, little bastards. Sorry, calm me down.
So what's your greatest fears about the World Heritage Status? I mean, you've talked about the places you visited that were so sterile and commercialized. I mean,
I think there's two sides here. One is my personal preference, as I said, particularly when it comes to Somerset, southwest of England. I think that there is a passion, there is a local culture, and there's a deep heritage. It's complex. Some of it's mythological. Some of it is economical. Some of it is where we are on coastlines and ports and stuff. And my experience is when things are organic, when they are actually when things change based on the actual people who live there, not just the loudest ones, but the actual people who live there. Some real magic has been in this part of England for a long time. My personal preference is don't come in with the juggernauts and the bulldozers and the cements and the contractors and all of the things there. It doesn't fit with my personal idea of what a nice world is.
yeah. I mean, have you seen the plaza at the Abbey, for instance?
I would just say.
Do you think that could be linked?
I would say there's a considerable amount of snagging there, and I would say that it hasn't changed my life. I think it's the politest thing I can say, and I believe a friend of mine found it quite hard to actually stay in the place and use the toilets. I'd say that was if that is true, that's a pretty basic planning thing, is make sure you can use the toilets after you've paid, if you're going to charge people. But that could be a myth. I don't know.
Would there be any benefits at all to the World Heritage site status thing coming here?
Well, I sound like a stuck record, but if we knew what the needs were up front, then there'd be something to gauge it against. Because if you start with, okay, what's the demand? Then you can actually tangibly see if you meet that demand, i.e. there's a benefit.
Sure.
So at the moment, I would have to just go into a fantasy or a daydream to imagine any advantages. And this might sound, again, a little clinical, but I don't want to be told what a benefit is. And just personally, and as a resident, I'd like to know how people are being helped from the money that's spent either consulting or creating things in this town that possibly we have to be told why it's a good idea, rather than saying, well, look, we clearly identified this need and we've served you as public servants to find a solution, and now your life, certainly for our best estimate, is going to be better. And that is entirely missing, as I see it.
There was no debate at all, was there? There was no conversation that happened.
It's been completely stifled because it's backfill, because nobody can show me, oh, Glastonbury clearly needs this. We looked at a number of options, one of which was this. And there was a horrendous piece of mind control at the last town meeting where we were just told, well, this is better than some housing or bypass, and if you wanted that, you shouldn't have voted for me. That I've heard that spiel so many times, and you can go back, and don't want to get too political. That's tyrannical. It's a way of misleading people to say, well, I think we should have this, and the option is bad, is that, and because you know that I don't want bad, we have to have this. We didn't ask for this. So that's a magician's trick. It's used by politicians, often by people who've never actually had to run their own business or have any kind of accountability or be in a place in the world. And I'm just not standing for that argument. You knew I wouldn't do option B.
Yeah, but this is the better option.
Well, that's what
they're saying.
I know it's a completely different situation, but when you find that interaction between two people, that is pure abuse. That's pure abuse. It's like,
absolutely.
We might want to cut this bit out. It's like, well, you knew I'd slap you around the face, when you married me, okay? So, you have to do this other option as well because it's your only choice. It's called a therapeutic double blind.
Right.
A therapeutic double blind, psychologically, there's some evidence it's what caused schizophrenia. an actual psychosis within a population. So fuck that. Sorry, cut that bit out. I'm going. I might need another cigarette in a minute.
That's
low
fine.
nicotine.
Yeah. So the last question is, why should it be stopped now? I mean,
because it never have started.
Should never.
And when the people who said it hasn't started, if they're spending money or time,
because in my petition,
looking at something that no one wants, it's time to stop.
Yeah, exactly.
It's time to let you off.
Yeah.
You can bury whatever money you've lost with the rest that you've lost, but just stop. Just stop. You know, it's like just stop doing something that nobody has bloody asked for in the first place.
Exactly.
Okay, just stop, walk away, have some dignity, and stop it.
Thank you, Ben.
Thank you, Amanda.
Some great insights.
Oh, I feel cleansed now. It's great. That's how I feel. That's how I feel.